All right, welcome to the Effortless Swimming Podcast. My guest today is Surf Ironman competitor Matt Bevilacqua. Matt, welcome to the podcast. So you've got a huge background in Surf Ironman. You won the NutriGrain series in 2018, and 5 times Molokai to Ohau paddleboard champion, and with the fastest crossing too. Is that right?
Got the I think I've got the 3 fastest times for that event, so it's a nice. Don't mind being out there in Hawaii. It's a good race I love to do.
And tell me about when you first started racing in the surf. Like what was your upbringing like? Were you always around the water?
Obviously in Tassie that's not always the case. It's the beaches and the layout of the city and stuff. It's the beaches, the really nice beaches are pretty remote. So I was lucky enough to have really supportive parents that took me down to the beach. And, even in the most horrible days down there, it gets pretty cold even in summer. I was down on the beach and just had a love for the sport and had a love for the community down there at Clifton Beach Surf Club, which is actually the most southern surf club in Australia. And I did a lot of football and things like that, but I just really enjoyed being on the beach and challenging myself in conditions and throwing myself out there, when the seas got big and stuff like that. So, love the sport from the get-go.
Do you think it made you a tougher competitor being brought up in those cold conditions? I mean, compared to the softies up in Queensland, right, who have just got the warm water all the time, and I probably feel a little bit the same way down here in Victoria, right, where it's just, even now the water is still so cold, but you see the kids out there. I see my kids going into the water and, they don't want to go in, back home until they're freezing cold. So did that sort of help you reckon, become a tougher competitor and get used to tough conditions?
I think it's a bit of both, right? So you obviously, what you don't know can't hurt you. So if you don't know any better, you just don't think it's that bad. So you see the kids at Torquay or Tassie, they're just, and even now I'm like, oh my God, I'm not going in there now because I know a lot better now. But I think what got me to where I am now is that love for the sport. So even though I loved going in the water down there and training and getting out there in the snow, I still enjoyed the sport, which was, I think it was clear for even my parents when decision time came, things like that. They're like, you enjoy it a lot. You love doing it down here, and here is not fun. So, when the going gets tough up there, you're going to keep going. So, I think if you see kids doing it tough in difficult situations in whatever sport or whatever thing they're doing, and they still kind of have a real love for it, they're still doing it with a smile on their face. Maybe they're getting 5th or 6th or last, maybe that's their difficult situation. But if they've got that love for it, it's a really good indicator that you could have some sustained success. So I think that's what I've noticed the most is that love for the sport has never left. And I'm glad I made the decision I did to stick with, surf.
And what is it that you love about the sport? What attracted you to it?
Question too, like people say, oh, why did you start Nippers? Why did you, keep going? And like my initial answer is, I just love the beach. I love testing myself in conditions, but I think it's a bit of everything, coming from Tasmania, we had to travel a lot to go to different competitions. And when I got the opportunity to go to the Gold Coast or to even to Perth or to Sydney for road trips and things like that, there is nothing better than doing a 3-day carnival on the beach with, some of the best competitors in the world, in Australia, and being a little nipper, challenging yourself in different conditions, different beaches all around Australia. And that's what the sport's all about is, travel and mixing yourself amongst the best at a range of locations. So I think that was more a progressive part of the love for it because you obviously like going to the beach initially, but the reason why I stuck with the sport is those reasons. And that's what the NutriGrain Ironman series represents. You go around with the best 20 guys or 20 girls to some of the best locations in Australia. And then each location offers different challenges. So it's a beautiful sport. And I think that's why where the love was generated later on.
Yeah. I mean, I think about why I still continue to swim. I, like yourself, started pretty early. I started, I don't know, 4 or 5, just like parents sort of threw me in, but still continue to swim today. And I couldn't see myself not continuing to swim. And for me, it's a combination of like you want to be good at something, and when you're good at something, you tend to continue to do it because you've put a lot of work into it. And if it's something that you generally just love, it helps. But then there's also that element of wanting to get better, enjoying like I love to train. I love the feeling of being exhausted or testing yourself in training. And then look, competition, I'm probably a better trainer than I am a competitor. But yeah, there's a whole host of things. It's like you just sort of get started in something, and then it builds and it builds. And it sort of sounds like that's what happened for you. And like, why did your parents get you into surf lifesaving? Were they originally sort of beach people, or they did it themselves?
Not really. Like, I think my mum did it a little bit, but not really. I think they were really good parents that they just threw me into everything. Like, I remember getting a little bit of taste of everything. Like, I was, tennis, like karate, music, playing musical instruments, just everything. So I think surf was just encompassed in that, which was, just in Tassie, which is still a bit strange. But we had a lot of kids in our sport, in our surf club down there. So I think that's what attracted them to send me down there. But yeah, just a bit of a taste for everything, which is so crucial for a young athlete. I think everyone has a sport they're probably naturally accustomed to or naturally have a attraction to as well. So I'm glad I got taste for everything, because I definitely found a niche sport that I have a niche love for.
Yeah. And which out of the sort of sports out of the events that you're doing, what's your preference? What do you enjoy the most?
Yeah, it's a good question. So our sport's so diverse. We have our Australian Ironman Championship, which is amongst the national titles, and it's a very short race. We have the endurance event, which is the Coolangatta Gold, and that's in 4 weeks' time. Then we have the NutriGrain Ironman series, which is 6 rounds, 6 different locations, and then Molokai, things like the World Paddleboard Championship, Hawaii. So there's just so many different events in our sport. And I think what still is I just love the challenge so much is the NutriGrain Ironman series. The Coolangatta Gold is probably a close second, but there's no comparison to when we have an uninterrupted year, going to 6 different locations with the best in the world, racing individually and just challenging yourself at really different locations and traveling around. So yeah, NutriGrain Ironman series is the best.
And do you train with most of the guys who you're racing against there? I'd say most of them are up on the Gold Coast or up in Queensland, right?
Majority would be in Queensland, few in Sunny Coast, probably majority in Gold Coast, and then Sydney and stuff fill the rest. I suppose when we come together, it's majority of the Gold Coast. So we spread across the surf clubs, obviously. So I only train with actually I have 3 other NutriGrain Ironmen I train with. But mostly there's probably only 1 or 2 at each surf club. So you don't actually train with them too often. We come together in our swim clubs. They're a bit more condensed. So you see other surf clubs in your mornings during swimming. But yeah, very spread, and definitely spread between the surf clubs.
And what's your approach of, like, obviously you've got to train hard, you've got to work your ass off, and your fitness and all of that plays a part, but obviously there's also the elements of the surf, right? Some people will catch a wave, some people won't, and you have those sort of sometimes lucky breaks with it. So how's that sort of play into your approach, or if you perhaps have a good or a bad result, which might be the result of out in the surf and maybe a bit of luck? How's that sort of play into your thinking of the end result at the end of the day?
So I talk about the sport as being the ultimate humility test. So the whole ultimate humility teacher. So you can be the best on the day and obviously lose the race, or actually come last by a long way, but despite being the best on the day. But so luck does play a part. And even while I'm saying that, I'm saying luck doesn't play a part. Luck doesn't play a part because you're always trying to teach yourself that you have control of your destiny. So for every race you go in there trying to do your best and worry about no one else, worry about your race plan so specifically, because on a 6-foot day on the Gold Coast, there are so many different ways to get out, come in, that have different chances, different possibilities that vary 10%, 15%, but you need to take the majority chance to get the win. So you're constantly evaluating odds, and sometimes it doesn't go your way, and sometimes you have to be really okay with your decision that you made the right decision. So to worry about other people is an avenue to really just worry too much and not succeed. So you really need to focus on yourself and back your decisions, and pretend that luck doesn't play a part.
Yeah, that's right. And speaking about not being worried about other people, we were talking just before the podcast about where you train, which is at Miami Pool, and it's just like a treasure trove of elite sports people there, with Olympians, with like national finalists, and then you've got a whole bunch of triathletes up that way, and like surf Ironman competitors as well. So can you talk a little bit about the environment that you're training in with your swimming, and who's there, and sort of how that looks?
It's a really cool part of my program. So I'm with North Cliff Surf Club, obviously, and in the mornings on the Gold Coast, we all kind of mingle surf clubs and go to different squads. So there's squads at Bond, Griffith, with surf athletes there, as well as Miami, which is probably the biggest surf athlete squad. So we run Dennis Cottrell's old program, and we have triathletes coming in. We've got guys like Alex Graham, David Morgan, that are the pool swimming side of our squad, and then our surf squad has Matt Poole, Corey Taylor, Joe Collins. We've had them all. So we're kind of progressing on with the same sessions that Dennis Cottrell used to set. Grant Hackett, Tom Fraser Holmes, Dan Smith, all those guys. So it's a pretty heavy program, and coached by Raylene. We flog ourselves day in, day out. So we've got a 9-lane pool of probably 8 good swimmers in each lane, and it's a massive torture test, but it's where we get our majority of our aerobic training. So unlike triathlon, the swimming in our Ironman races is probably the heaviest weight, like the most important kind of thing. It's the most duration and the most time out there. So we have to be basically pool swimmers. We rival times in training at the pool to the pool guys, but they're much more finesse and can obviously race in the pool. We can't go much faster than what we actually train at. So we convert that to pool, surf racing and surf swimming on Wednesdays and Saturday mornings when we do our Ironman sessions. And so those pool swims are chaotic and really challenging.
A lot of the people that I coach are triathletes or open water swimmers, and the common question I get is, how often should I be in the open water compared to the pool? And most of the elite guys like yourself, it's like the fitness is really done in the pool, and then the open water stuff, it's more just about the skills and the tactics and learning, particularly at the beach, right? Where like where your lines should be and all of that sort of stuff. So how often are you training for your swimming, and then I guess the other events as well?
So I'm doing 4 pool swims in the morning, and then a Wednesday and a Saturday morning I do my Ironman sessions, which are 2 obviously surf swims, but no specific actual surf swim sessions. And my thinking, when you're obviously majority of your listeners are open water swimmers, a lot of their open water swimming is very flat, for triathlon and for open water swimming in the Kawana Lake, things like that. So it's not quite, it's almost easier because you're more buoyant. You got your wetsuit on sometimes, salt water, things like that. It's not too much of a transition. So to put it in perspective, I only do two surf swims, none are specific, but I actually train to swim in, 6-foot surf, where going up and over swells, and you've got to learn to swim. It's not even swimming. It's very weird hacking water polo stroke where you're basically looking for the next runner to dive through. It's like a continuous porpoise basically in massive, massive seas. So, and even then, so we don't train a lot specifically for it, but when you have those skills, we see a lot of guys come from the pool and they can jump in the surf. They can easily transfer it even into big choppy conditions. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, the pool is if you can get the skills in there by doing different drills, different swim sets with pull and band, things like that, you can really transfer very easily. So we find it's no problem.
Has there ever been any situations where you've found yourself, I guess not out of your depth, but where you've gone, all right, this is testing? What's that? Sorry, it just cut out.
Challenging in what way? Like in the surf? If I've done a session in the surf?
Yeah, like out in the ocean where you've been out in big conditions.
Yeah, absolutely. We kind of train for that because that's where our sport's the most exciting, and I like that our sport is engaging for the audience. So I love to make sure my skills are absolutely on point when we're training the surf. So last in February this year, we had Shaw and Partners actually put on a massive event, an Ironman Classic, the Shannon Eckstein Ironman Classic it's called, and there's 20 grand on the line for first place. And it's so insanely big at Surfers Paradise. I remember just being like, I don't normally get scared. I've done a lot of stuff in big surf, and it was almost 10 foot plus. And we're going out and surf skis and swimming and ball paddling, and just my partner was actually going out as well, and I was thinking she cannot go out there, like that is so big. And it was a crazy day, and I remember thinking I'm definitely at my max here. So I think that was the last time, but it happens fairly often. You really do test yourself, but it's majority pretty safe. As long as you're doing the right things, you can test yourself to the limit without being unsafe. But that was February this year, and good scare.
What's it? Is it scarier being out there swimming, or when you're like on the ski? What's the toughest one in those conditions?
Look, you would think it would be on the ski or board, but swimming sometimes can be really, you can feel really vulnerable swimming because you just don't have the flotation. Obviously, a ski, you've got to fight. They're 6 meter skis, they're 18 kilos, and you've got to paddle in your hand, but you've got speed at your side. Whereas swimming, you can really get caught. If you get caught at the end of a rip bowl, it's kind of like getting caught under the waterfall. You can't get out of there. If you get caught at the wrong spot, you'll be held under for a long time, just with minimal chance of air. So the swimming, I reckon I actually feel the most vulnerable, to be honest, but that's what we train for. So
that's right. Well, it's and especially without like fins or anything like that. Like sometimes I live near Bells, and sometimes I'll go and like body surf it, but put the fins on and stuff, and like there's no sweep there, well, unless it's really big, but it's generally pretty safe. But even so, like without the fins, it's like you're very much a victim to what's happening there, and you've just got to go with what's happening in the ocean. And I guess that's why it can feel like probably the toughest event if it's big and challenging.
Those fins are awesome. When it gets really big to go out there with fins on, you feel completely different, like in every way. You've just got your feet back. But when it's big, it's just air. You can't even swim. So you really have to be skillful and know where to go with the current and get out of a bad situation. So, because you got no power. You literally just swimming in air. So, that'd be a lot of fun, actually. I'd like to body surf Bells with some fins on.
Yeah, I've had a few comments out there, but it's I don't care. It's good fun. And what about in terms of training wise with your swim sessions? Are there a couple of favorite sessions that you'll do? Because I'm sure that you're probably repeating the same sets fairly regularly. What are some of your favorites?
Well, like you said before, I'm addicted to that feeling of improvement and training. So I'm there to get better. I'm there to swim well. So on a Monday morning we do 300s, and sometimes we get up to 10 threes. And we'll do, say, descend 1 to 3, 3 times maybe, and then the last one, max. And if I can do that session well and really fast, that's probably my favorite session. When I get really fit and I can smash that session, that's probably my favorite session. On Friday mornings, and where we're feeling pretty flat, we do a 40-50s set, which is 16 50s on 45. Is it? Yeah, 16 50s 45, and then 12 on 50, and then it's 55, and every like quarter one is fast. So 16 every fourth is fast, 12 every 3 is fast, 8 every 2 is fast, and then you do the last 4 all max. It's a really nice progressive set that you can kind of squeeze everything you've got to give out without kind of just it's too much overload and you can't get through a Friday morning session. So
yeah,
there's two for you that I kind of like. Yeah.
that's good. I heard Clibby actually, he posted about that session a couple of years ago. He said it was one of Dennis's like go-to sessions. And so we've done that like for the last couple of years. We've called it the DC special. And it's a good one. Although we've given it when we've done camps in Thailand and in Hawaii and stuff. And it's like, I don't give the swimmers that cycle, but at the same session, but it's good. It's like, it's 2K. All right. It's not too hard. But it's sort of like this gradual build, isn't it? Where at the end, you're just like, you're completely wrecked, but it doesn't feel too hard because you get to ease into it. And yeah.
A lot of the time when you fit, you think you don't have a lot to give, but if you can just ease into it with that 1650s, by the time you get to 4, you've actually, really warmed up nicely. It's a great warm up, and you can actually show a bit of speed at the end and get some good times out of your session, and walk away going. And this is the best thing an athlete can walk away from, is go, I felt horrible at the start of that, but I finished pretty good and I did some good times. If kids or athletes can walk away with that feeling, it's pretty empowering, because you go, oh yeah, you're dead in a race, but no, I've got more to give. You've always got more to give. I never really know if I'm dead. So yeah, good one.
I think that's also kind of similar to that 10-300 session. Like I really like those sessions where you get that gradual build, like build 1 to 3, for example, because you can start out pretty easy, get a little bit quicker, and then quicker again. And then you might even find that your times are improving throughout the set if you weren't feeling great in the beginning. But I find that so much better and more rewarding as the athlete, because you give yourself that sense of accomplishment. Whereas if you're doing a set that might be like 10-300s all at like threshold, and you just blow up number 3 and it's all downhill from there, it's kind of a bit down on yourself after a session. So I do like those ones where it's like this, crescendos towards the end. So coming into summer now, what have you got on the calendar in terms of events and what you're training for?
Yeah, so in 4 weeks' time, we've got the Coolangatta Gold. So that's our endurance race that kind of kicks off the summer most years. Last year, unfortunately, we didn't get to race it. So, and the previous year I won it. So it was probably one of the biggest achievements of my career, winning that race. And the best ever to do it, Ali Day wasn't there. So he'll be there in 4 weeks' time. So I have to defend my title against him, and really looking forward to a massive challenge, and massively motivated and really enjoying training, and a lot better than I was 2 years ago. So looking forward to that test. It's going to hurt a lot, but ready for it. And then after that, our NutriGrain Ironman series kicks off. So it's going to be a bit of a limited summer. I think we'll probably just do 2 weekends of 3 rounds, because we've just been a delayed start. Basically, we normally start racing about November for that series, so everything's been pushed back. And then the Australian Ironman title in late March, which I really need to try and win. So I haven't never won one of those, and that kind of ends our summer. We've also got the Shore and Partners Summer of Surf series throughout that summer as well. So between the Gold, the NutriGrain series, the Shore and Partners events, and the Australian titles, it's a lot coming up over the next 4 months. Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like you're going to be racing close to every weekend by the sounds of it, right? It's like
pretty much. Yeah, almost. Yeah.
And I mean, compared to winter, I'm guessing there's like essentially no competitions that you're doing unless you're traveling over to Hawaii or something, which obviously hasn't happened. So how do you go with, it's like being a footy player, I guess, where you train, and then it's just compete back to back.
Yeah, it is this summer. Yeah. Last summer was, not quite the same. We did the NutriGrain Ironman series over 2 weekends, and then Aussies, so it was a really quiet summer, but yeah, when things are going, it's on. So yeah, you have a big off-season period, and then you race. But normally, once Aussies is done, kind of March, April, I can have maybe 4 weeks off, and then I'm 10 weeks out from July 30th, which is normally the board Molokai. So that's 52 Ks. It's a 5-hour board paddle race. So I really need to, do some long distance stuff for that. And so it's almost a continuous year. But obviously had kind of a nice break now. So I did 5 board paddle world championships in a row. And then, so I didn't really have a break for 5 years. And then I was actually going to have a break last year anyway. And then it was cancelled. So yeah, it was one of those things, and had a 2-year break now from the race. So keen to get back there and start getting back to normal and putting some back-to-back years together.
Yeah, that'd be good. And what do you think sort of sets you apart with the board paddle, like in that race, having perhaps the top 3 times? So what do you think you've got over everyone else that's sort of giving you that advantage?
Yeah, great question. And I don't really have an answer for you. Board paddling for me has just come. I've always been a pretty natural board paddler on the big clubby boards. When I was a kid, lying down on the nipple boards, not so much. Like I didn't even win races in Tasmania or anything until I was, much, much older, like 16, 17. Used to get flogged in juniors. And yeah, so I've got like incredibly flexible hamstrings. Like even cold, I can go almost put my wrist to the floor with straight legs.
Right.
So yeah, little things like that are obviously like maybe just naturally talented in genetics wise, but training for that race, I just enjoy being, like I told you, I enjoy being out in the ocean. There is nothing more fun than I enjoy going downwind in massive, like 10-foot swells in a huge downwind on those boards. It's like continuously surfing for like as long as you want to go for. So yeah, I love doing it. So when I go out, when I train the preparation for that race, I'm probably doing more hours than anyone else, and that helps obviously for competing. And yeah, when we get over there, it's just awesome. You're out in the middle of the ocean, you can't even see land or anything or anyone, like, and you just paddle downwind and practice catching these swells for like 5 hours. And that's a race, it's like nothing else in the world. And it can get pretty big, open ocean seas off Hawaii in those winds. The faces of the waves are pretty massive, and you can get down them. You can get some serious speed. So yeah, just the love for it, mate. That's another underlying tone here.
Yeah, that's awesome. And are you practicing that on the Goldie? Like, are you driving up north and then going down, on the right days, or are you just going out from the surf club?
Yeah, absolutely. That's it. So when it's flat, obviously I just go off the surf club. There's no point driving anywhere, but every chance I get that there's wind, I'll go down the coast. There's a good paddle I like because Brunswick and the Byron stretch before Tweed, Coolangatta, so just before the New South Wales border, it's a lot more open to the southerly. So drive down to, say, Brunswick or Byron, and then paddle back from Byron all the way to basically Tweed or just to Kingscliff. And yeah,
right.
Jeez. So it's Shark Highway out there because there's no points that shelter you. So in the Gold Coast here, it's a big bay. We're sheltered by Tweed, so the sharks kind of, they stay out to sea and run up and down the coast, and we're in kind of a protected bay. But that's why Byron and stuff get them, because they're out there. So it's unprotected from the wind and unprotected for everything else. And great paddle backs. We get dropped and fly back, and it's a bit very similar to Hawaii. But on the Gold Coast here, it's quite flat during winter. So great open water swimming weather and things like that. But yeah, you got to get out there when the wind's out there.
I saw a video on YouTube of 2 guys. They foiled from, I don't know, not Main Beach, but like sort of the top, just before Stratty, like foiled from there all the way down to like Surfers, I think it was. I was like, oh, like it's not really something you can do that often around here, but yeah, with the right winds and that kind of thing, it's good conditions for it.
Yeah, well, like the northerly is good. So that's a north wind that's going the other way. So you could start at Seaway and paddle all the way over to Snapper if you wanted to. That's about maybe 27K or so.
Yeah.
And at times you'd be a long way out to sea because, like I told you, the Gold Coast is a bay, but that would be like, guys like Kylan, you were saying, from Hawaii could do that. And it's a great opportunity here on the Gold Coast. It's pretty cool spot. Yeah,
absolutely. And what about with the Coolangatta Gold? So it's a huge event, and it's really well known, really well publicized, particularly up on the Gold Coast. But I think even across Australia, like everyone's heard of the Coolangatta Gold. How was that for you, winning that event?
Yeah, it's just crazy. Growing up in Tasmania, I remember watching the movie just with my little brother and my dad on the couch back home. And I remember I was so pumped to do it. The minute I was old enough to do the under-19 event, I was in Tassie. I was like 16 and went over and did it. And I got sixth, which was pretty cool. And I was so stoked with that result. I was like, blew my parents away. They were like, whoa, only 5 of these mainlanders beat you. Because I could compete in it a bit better than the short stuff, because it was just a long time out there on the ski, a long time out there on the board, and I can train for that in Tassie. On the Gold Coast here, if you throw a 14-year-old Tasmanian against a Queenslander in 4-foot surf, they're like, what is this beach? What is this place? Even like Torquay, it's a protected like little beach compared to the open Gold Coast. Like, yeah, that's why Victorians again struggle as well. They don't have like unless you go on a Portsea or something, you don't have the comparable beaches. So I just had a love for it, and I could easily do it when I was 19. And so then it was always a goal that I was like, I could probably achieve this if all the things align and I can put the training together for it. So that's what happened on that day, and just a day I'll never forget. It was an insane race against one of my best mates until the last kilometer, and we had to have a sprint off. So
oh really?
it was a pretty crazy story, and I'm pretty keen to see what stories will come out of the next one, because it's going to be a lot of guys who come to party, and it's going to be another tough event.
It makes me think of like some of the triathlon races I've seen where even like half Ironman or Ironman events, which can spread across 7-8 or 8 hours for some of the pro guys, and if it comes down to a sprint, you just think, oh my god, what have these guys got left in the tank after such a big day out? And I mean, it's the same thing with Cooley. It's a long day out. How many hours does it typically take for the race?
So it's about 4 hours is what the winners have come across at, and so we'd come through then, and then some guys would be out there for like 8 hours or something sometimes. But so it's crazy. Like, I always watch races like that, and you see them sprint finish, and you're like, or any event, and you're just like, how do they have anything left? And you just feel it on adrenaline. I remember just like literally gritting my teeth. I was just so like desperate for anything I'd got, and just hurting so much that I was just gritting my teeth so bad. And like, I had like white foam and stuff around my mouth and I was finishing the race, but just no idea, just in such limits of pain. And I was thinking about it the other day, because every day you train, you're trying to think of those moments and remember how much it's going to hurt. So draw on this opportunity at training to make that moment hurt a little less. And I was just, we've been doing so many Ks, I've been kind of delirious in the head a little bit, but I was thinking, you train for those moments to hurt a little bit less, but they never do. You just keep getting faster. So because I've been improving a lot in the last few weeks, and like kind of hurting the same, and just thinking this is a infinite challenge. You're never going to hurt any less. You just get faster. So I thought that was a funny thought that I had the other day. But yeah, looking forward to it anyway.
I reckon. Yeah, it's is that something that you're thinking about in training a lot? Are you visualizing yourself racing, maybe like the last part of the race where you might be head to head with someone, or seeing yourself on the start line? Is that something that you've done before, or you continue to do?
Yeah, absolutely. I think visualization and mental imagery for racing and training is just so crucial. It's really, really important. Even to the point where if you watch a lot of race footage, it's kind of like the same, because your subconscious takes on a lot of, and that's why I watch your videos, is because your subconscious takes on a lot of the technique that you're watching. You might not even notice it. You might be talking through specific skills that you focus on, but just watching it, your body takes on so much of that knowledge. And so when I'm training, obviously picturing exact moments, if I do good things at training. So always I'm learning, especially in the surf, the ocean's an infinite teacher. So I'll remember those moments and drum it into my mind, and I'll think through what I did so that you never forget it. You don't just experience it in the moment and then forget it. You go, oh, that felt good. I'll remember that. Just think through it again. And it's almost to the point where those reflections after training are so crucial, so that when it comes to race day, and you're sitting there on the couch the morning of your race, you can just sit there and close your eyes and just picture all those decisions that you've committed to and all those things you want to do. You can really see them clearly and then enact them a lot easier when you race.
And after training, you said you reflect on the session a lot of times. Are you doing that just while you're having a coffee or having breakfast, or you're writing this stuff down? What's your approach to it?
Yeah, I do have a journal. Like all that, I'm very imperfect. I think if I was my perfect self, I would definitely be writing down every thought in a good journal, having a journal every year. But I've got kind of a really big book that for big races I make notes about, and I definitely don't do it after every training, which I should. But yeah, after big moments and race preparation. So for the gold coming up, I wrote down notes for my preparation for 2019 because obviously it worked out all right. So what day I had a massage, nutrition moments that I stuffed up, nutrition that went well, things like that. But yeah, I think for listeners, if you can write down notes, if you can get a diary for each year and you can write down, some things that went well at each session or things you've been focusing on, it's just so good. Not even for revision at the ends of the year. It's just for that, reiteration in your head and that reflective help. So yeah.
It consolidates your thoughts, doesn't it? I think of like, I don't probably really sort of write about that stuff anymore, but when I was a teenager, would keep a logbook and write down like the main set and how we felt and that kind of thing. And the way I probably use it more these days is more like when we were running camps, some like 2019, 2020, at the end of each camp, I'd write down what went well, what we can improve, and just and just get it out on paper. And then I can either look back at it or I remember it a lot better once I've written it down. And it's kind of like when for me, it's been coaching. It's like when I coach swimmers on their stroke, I learn that a lot better when you're teaching someone else as opposed to me just doing it. And it's just that next level of, I guess, taking things on board or learning them.
Absolutely. And I was intrigued into how your coaching had kind of changed. So I scrolled to the bottom of your Instagram and watched like different, a few other videos, and just like, even then I could see how much it's progressed. Like you can just learn so much from analyzing where you were to where you're at. And it's just so motivational. But yeah, I could see that like you've done well to improve how you coach as well. So like, it's so important to that reflection. And it's a bit fickle and annoying sometimes. You're obviously so dead and you're worrying about nutrition, but it's a key part, because that visualization you want when you come up to a race, you want something easy that you can just lean on for just mental fortitude, a bit of positivity. You're going up to a big test, but that visualization is so easy. If you just got these notes, right, normally for me, it's a lot of swimming based stuff because it's probably my weakest leg. It's just improved so much over the last few years, but I'm always trying to work to improve it because it's like I said, it's the most important leg. So I just want to tick off those dot points, focus on that catch, head up through the break, lengthen out once you're out the back, like just little things. It's not even too complex, but
Yeah, it's interesting hearing you say, like, you watch the video of someone swimming and then you can almost internalize that and swim like them. And I love doing that. Like, obviously we've got the footage of Dan Smith, which you've seen, and he's quite unique with his stroke. He's just so perfect and long. And when I'm doing some stroke count stuff in training that's really easy, I'll try and picture myself like swimming like him. And then when I'm picking up the pace a bit, like my stroke I'm not going to sustain that kind of style. So I'll sort of switch to someone else, like probably a bit more like Katie Ledecky with that more loping sort of style. But it's exactly right. You can just picture who you're trying to swim like, and then you can really start to incorporate that into your own stroke.
Yeah, because each person's different. Each like you're different as well. So you can kind of change it up for whatever speeds you're at. And like I remember Dan Smith. With Dan Smith, Dennis Cottrell always used to like have a chat with me and another surf, Matt Poole, after each session, and we'd be talking about Hacky going into that Olympic trial and things like that. And he said, "Oh, if I could combine Dan Smith's stroke with Hackey's work ethic, like Hackey just was never outworked. He goes, I'd have the perfect swimmer, you know. He just loved Dan's stroke, like he just frothed on it. He always used to, you know, use him as an example. So yeah, he's pretty amazing, that 100, and the Ironman swim as well, that, you know, that flat water swim.
Yeah,
that ex-Olympian was. Yeah, that was just incredible to watch. I was kind of mesmerized by that.
And with your own swimming over the last few years, what are some of those things that you'd focused on, and how had you approached it over the last like 5 years or so?
Yeah, it's been an incredible ride. So when I left Tassie at 18, 19, you know, my swimming was, you know, pretty terrible. I just was never naturally talented at it. Even when I left home at 19, wasn't even in the Ironman series. It took me like 2 or 3 years before I could even break in, let alone start to be competitive. So, yeah, it's come a long, long way. And I think I'm not exactly textbook either. I'm not a completely dedicated athlete, like I said, doing reflections every session or focusing on a variety of things. I'm a bit of a hacker and I just work really hard. But at the very minimum, I'm always just thinking, especially on easy swimming, just little things, you know, like I don't even want to say what I'm supposed to on, but you know, just high elbows, maybe straighten your arms. So I change a lot during my swimming, like you said, when you're trying to fixate on Dan Smith's stroke for easy swimming, and then maybe Katie Ledecky's for hard swimming. Just always thinking and always never switching off and just going through the motions. When I'm doing drills, you know, when I'm doing one arm drills, my hands by my side, and I can breathe what we call unco, so on the other side, not under your stroke arm. And it's a very balanced rotation now that I can do for that drill. Things like catch up and 6 kick holds, you know, with your elbow high and then reaching out. Things like those drills I used to do and just go through the motions early, but I focused on them so hard that now they're a real strength. I can do them really efficiently and strong. And I think that they've helped my swimming come a long way. And I can see a lot of hacking surf swimmers, young kids coming through, and I say, you know, work on that one arm drill, you know, put your hand by your side and rotate and breathe the other side. And they go, oh, I can't do that. It's really hard. And yeah, it's hard, but that's why, because you need to do it to improve your swimming. So those drills I've focused on, I never switch off when I'm doing easy swimming. I hack a lot when I'm doing the hard swimming, but yeah, I think they're just always open to learning as well. You're there to improve your swimming, and swimming's a finesse thing. It's the same as very similar to kayaking and surf ski paddling. If your technique's off, it's just not going to happen. You can be the hardest guy in the room. It's just not going to get you there. So really, really try and focus on improving whenever I can, doing the easy stuff in those drills.
Yeah, it's so good to hear, because I mean, I think back to when I was young, I would do drills, but didn't really know what the point behind them was. And it's easy just to roll through it. You know, you could do a few hundred meters of drills and you've done it, but if you haven't focused on it, or you haven't used it to help improve your stroke, well, it's no wonder like you're just going through the motions. So I think what I've tried to do with my coaching is to explain the drills and the purpose behind them and how that relates to your stroke, because I find there's a big disconnect there. And look, I get it. If you're a squad coach and if you've got 9 lanes of swimmers across the pool, right, you're not going to be able to go into too much detail with things. And we run small group clinics of like 6 people, and so we have lots of time to explain this stuff, and that's what I try and do with the videos. So it's bridging that gap. And then when people do a drill and they see a result and it improves their stroke, it's like, okay, there is a purpose to drills, but you don't need to do a whole session of them, because I know what it's like. You know, I just want to get fit. I just love that feeling there of a hard session. But also, you know, technique's so important. You got to do what you got to do to improve it. Yeah,
Dennis used to pull us aside every now and then. You know, it was every 3 sessions. I don't even think you'd see a cue, but he would stop everyone and he'd walk up and down the pool doing, you know, this catch, and then he'd walk himself along a few steps. It's the catch, you know, and he'd be that was what he's focused on. And so did, you know, just twig you every few sessions to go, yeah, okay, I need to focus on this drill. You know, it's not there for just shits and giggles. It's there's a purpose to it. And it really it focuses on a part of the stroke that you can change. When you're swimming, it's like even doing easy swimming, you can't specifically look at, you know, one part of your stroke. It's kind of hard. You've got everything moving together, whereas they utilize it. And if you can do like catch up and just think about how little strokes you can do. And I wish I took more notes, because I reckon I've dropped, you know, 10 strokes of 50 off my minimum stroke in even
Really?
just the last 5 years. Yeah. It still doesn't look pretty, but I'm much more efficient than I was 4 years ago, much more balanced, because coming out of Tassie, I was just huge, big hook and left, and then a flat right arm and just surf swim up. But evened it a lot out. It's a great feeling, you know. I love my swimming now because I'm so much more efficient. Back when I first left Tassie, it was a chore, you know, getting up in the morning. I didn't want to go swimming, and now I, you know, got all my gear in my bag, got my snorkel. I just embrace, you know, the entire process. And I did a post about it the other day. My weakness is definitely almost becoming a strength, you know, compared to the rest of the Ironman. My swimming is probably one of my best, because a lot of the other guys are good at board and ski, but it's becoming a strength. So if you really work on it, and you go through those little skills, you can make it more of a love for you, and then you can really improve.
Yeah, totally agree. When you see those little improvements, it gives you that confidence, and it gives you that love for it, especially with swimming, which can be such a frustration for people. You need the finesse, you need that skill. And what, in terms of stroke count, like when you're doing just a minimum stroke count 50, what are you doing?
I've been getting down to 24, 25 for when I'm really nice and warmed up.
Yeah, right.
We don't actually focus on it too much, so that's just mid-session, you know, me having a good time. But yeah, when I'm feeling good, and my streamline's not great either. I'm not going to the 15 or anything. That's just, you know, a bit past flags or whatever. But so 24, 25, and a lot better than previously. But us surf swimmers, we can do some good times, but we're hackers. You know, it's inefficient, but when it's in the surf, we kind of slow it down a bit, and it kind of works a bit better. But it's good to know that, you know, I'm getting better stroke in the pool. Yeah,
that's 24, 25's really low. That's awesome. And I mean, when you're swimming in the surf too, in open water, you're not going to look pretty. You just can't physically do it when there's surf like you're swimming in. So, but it is good to have that finesse in the pool. And then if it's flat and it's better conditions, you can use it. Otherwise, I think you take that better feel for the water into the ocean when you've got to hack a bit. You still have that better feel for the water that you develop in your pool sessions.
Yeah. Like there's, you know, Bailey Armstrong, Nick Sloman, and we've got Ruben Reese at Miami. Those guys are really efficient in the pool. They just look incredible, especially Nick at the moment in the pool, just so good. And even when it's choppy in the surf, he makes it look smooth. You know, it's almost like the more power he has, the more hip control and power there in the kick, he can just make a choppy situation look pretty small, like you look pretty flat. So yeah, definitely every single, like I was saying before, that it's definitely transferable easily, and everything I do in the pool, I know it's going to be really efficient, really helpful in the surf. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you being on the podcast, and I know you didn't want to talk too much about technique, but I think it's all...
Yeah, we kind of got into it. So people are going to be laughing at me, but anyway, I listen to my coaches. And I'm listening to you. So yeah, thanks for that. It's an awesome platform you have to help such a massive variety of swimmers. So yeah, cheers for your help as well.
I appreciate it. And I mean, like I saw you shared one of our videos on Instagram, I think it was, and I was like, oh, that's awesome, because I've watched you in the Surf Ironman scene for a number of years, because I've I enjoyed watching that stuff, and I had a whole season of Surf Ironman probably 10 years ago, but so I appreciate that. But I wish you all the best coming up for this season, and particularly for the Coolangatta Gold. And thanks for sharing all this on the podcast. It's been great, and I love the fire that you've got. It's great to see that, and it just transfers into someone who's a very good competitor. So I wish you all the best for the season.
Cheers. Thanks so much. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for listening to the Effortless Swimming Podcast. If you'd like us to help you become a faster, more efficient swimmer, go to www.effortlessswimming.com.